Hi, Shaz here. I run 5 different businesses, and one of the common questions I get asked is, how do you find the time? Because time management is a big issue for all of us, especially with all the different types of interruptions going on in the world, not to mention social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, email, and everything else that goes on. So the first thing I would say is it's not about time management, because we cannot manage time. Time passes. What we can manage is ourselves. So it's all about self-management. So I'm going to share some tips with you on how I manage myself better so that I can manage my time better, so that I can be more productive and get more things done. And that's how I'm able to run 5 separate businesses and also find the time to make these type of videos to share my knowledge, experience and expertise with you. So the first thing that I do is before I go home every evening or afternoon, depending on what time I'm finishing work, I make a list of the 3 most important things that I am going to work on tomorrow. And I list them in order, the first one being the most important, the second one being the second most important, and the third one being the third most important. And the next day when I arrive, I look at the list to make sure that the first one is still the most important task, and I am going to work on that task and nothing else. And believe it or not, I do not check my emails first thing in the morning when I arrive to the office. I work on that first task first, because that's what I said I would do the night before. Once I've finished that task, I then look at the 2 other tasks and I add on a third task, because on my list there's always 3 tasks. So I add on a third task. So I've got 3 tasks, but now I look at those 3 tasks and think, is the second one from yesterday still the most important? If it is, I'll work on that next. If, however, having added the new task, which is the 4th task, but now it's the 3rd task because I've finished the first task, I hope you're following that, then I will decide on which one is the most important. So if the previous 2nd task is still the most important, that then becomes task number 1. However, if the 4th task, which is now the 3rd task, is the most important, then I'll make that the number 1 priority. And prioritizing and then reprioritizing my list, and a short list by the way, of 3 items, helps me to get quite a bit of work done. It helps me to focus on the important and then the urgent tasks. So if you haven't come across Dr. Stephen Covey, he has this matrix about important and urgent tasks. Have a look at that. You'll find that quite useful, and it did help me in the earlier days. Above and beyond that, after having used my priority list, I also make sure I only check my emails, ideally 3 times a day, but sometimes, like most people, I do fall short and I'll probably check it 4 times, and if I'm on a really bad day I might check it 5 times, but on average I'll check it 3 to 4 times a day, usually morning, after lunch and just before I go home. And the reason for that is, if you keep checking your emails every second or every minute or every time they arrive, that is an interruption. It's going to stop you doing what you're doing. You're then going to focus on something else which you don't need to focus on. And guess what? When people are sending you email, they are making their agenda a priority. So they are usually asking you a question. They're usually asking you to do something. So they are pushing their agenda onto you, which means your agenda, i.e. the things that you want to do, get left behind or get put off. So it's a bad idea to do that. The good idea is to do your stuff first and then obviously focus on what other people want you to do. An email is a massive interruption. I also now don't check my social media during work. The only time during work that I'll check it is lunchtime, because that's half an hour, 45 minutes or an hour that I've got to myself. I'll go through my social media, but other than that, I do not check my social media while I'm at work. That is a massive interruption. Something else which works extremely well for me, which is called the Pomodoro Technique, which basically how it works is, you set aside 20 minutes where you have complete 100% focus on the task that you're working on. So you work on it for 20 minutes, then you give yourself a break. Some people sometimes give themselves a 10-minute break, some might do a 5-minute break, some might do a 15-20-minute break. I usually give myself a 10-minute break, so in those 10 minutes I'll do whatever I like. That could be just talking to my team members. If I need to make a phone call or return a phone call, I'll do that. And then you go back and spend another 20 minutes either working on that task or working on a different task. And having that focus for 20 minutes is going to enable you to get through quite a bit of work. Try it out. You'll be amazed how much you get done. Another time vampire is the lack or inability to delegate, because as business owners, entrepreneurs, we think we are the best thing since sliced bread and nobody can do any of the tasks better than we can. But of course, experience shows us, or shows me, that could not be further from the truth. So what I used to do, and I still do it sometimes, is I have 3 sheets of paper. Let's call them 1, 2 and 3. So every time I do a task, they have to go on one of those 3 sheets. Sheet number 1 is titled Task That Only I Can Do. Sheet number 2 is titled Tasks That I Can Do but somebody else could do too. And sheet number 3 is titled Tasks That I Should Not Be Doing and Somebody Else Should Be Doing. So for a whole week, every single task that you do, you should list them on one of those 3 sheets. And at the end of the week then, everything on task 3 and similar tasks, okay, on sheet 3 should all be delegated to one of your team members, and you should never ever do them again. All the tasks on sheet 2 and similar tasks to those type of tasks, you should seriously think about delegating one by one, step by step. And all of the tasks on sheet number 1 and some of those on number 2, which only you can do, you need to do them and then find an efficient way of doing them, and perhaps even think about how you can train some of your team members to do some of your tasks, because as leaders and managers, we should only be working on the tasks that only we can do. Everything else must be and should be delegated. I also have a very clear diary system on the types of things that I'm going to work on. So for example, on a Tuesday morning, I will work on marketing. That time is blocked out. I don't take phone calls, I don't have meetings. I have certain times where I make phone calls or return phone calls. During those times I will do that, so that helps me get a lot of discipline. Something which worked really well for me, and I use Outlook, was having a color system for my diary. So yellow, the color yellow tells me and shows me that's when I make phone calls. Blue is marketing, red is meeting with prospects, green is meetings with my team members. So I've got different colors, so as soon as I open my diary, I can clearly see what I need to do by looking at the color system. By using those 3 sheets, I am better able to delegate tasks to my team members, and guess what? My team members are better at managing and doing tasks than I am. And by not looking at email on a regular basis and social media, that means I have less interruptions, and that means I am more focused. Those are just some of the things, and time management is an evergreen issue, evergreen challenge, because new interruptions keep coming up. And there are a few other things that I do to manage myself better, so I can manage my time better, and I'll hopefully share those with you on another video. But I hope you found these tips useful. So just a quick roundup. A, do not check your email on a regular basis. Check it infrequently. B, delegate as much as you can, so you only work on the tasks that you have to work on. C, make sure that you use a proper diary system and color code it, because that will be very helpful to you. And D, make sure you have a priority list so you can prioritize the tasks which are important and urgent to you in your business. And the last one, E, is do not allow other people to push their agenda on you. Work on your agenda first and then work on their agenda. Hopefully if you do all of those or some of those, what you will find is over, let's say, a whole month, you will become more efficient, and therefore you will become more productive. I hope you found that useful. Bye for now.